So I've pre-thought this one out, and I know what I'm going to do with this one, which is going to be kind of fun. We're going to do a caterpillar bouncing. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start off again with our drawing number 5. Get this drawing right here. And the action that I want to create here is it's a waving action. So what I want is I want to get this type of an action here. Okay? So the action that's going to be taking place in the center is this part of my wrist here. So as the character comes down, the character's, actually I have to do it backwards, the character's going to do this type of an action. Okay? Because I want to make it look like he's actually bouncing on the ground and moving forward. So that means that when this part here is dropping down, this part here is actually leading slightly, and this part here is trailing. So we'll start with this part here that's trailing, all right, to create the overlapping action. So in this drawing here, this is when it's reaching its full acceleration down. We want to delay the other ball by putting it up here slightly. Okay, so we're just going to put another smaller ball over here. And if you want to, you can stretch it out a little bit, but you don't have to. But it's definitely got to be higher than where this one is here. So essentially we're going to take from the center of this ball and put a line to the center of this ball here. We're just going to do a little looping line like this. Sort of like a spine that connects the two of them together. I just thought of something. My main problem here when I'm doing this I mean, it was simple when I was doing the Daffy Duck thing. I didn't think about Daffy Duck until after the fact, but this part of the body here in the Daffy Duck one, this is the pelvis, this is the chest, and then I added on the head, which overlapped and came up and over like this. So when I thought about caterpillar, okay, I was thinking, okay, here's the main section of the body here, here's the head, and then I'll put the other part over here as the tail and have the character look like he's sort of flopping along the ground. But I couldn't figure out what the heck this was going to be. And I just figure out what it's going to be. I'm going to have another bug on top of his back, riding him like a horse. Okay? So he's going to be flopping along the ground like this, with another bug sort of riding on top of him.
Oh my gosh, make it a ladybug.
Okay, we will.
Yes.
All right, so spontaneous spur of the moment animation.
Yes.
So now in drawing number 6, we move on to our next one here. Here's where, again, it's reaching its full acceleration point. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull this line here up like this just a little bit more and get this to drag just a little bit. We'll just put a little bit of a stretch on this part here just to give it a whip-like feel. So just see how if we put it in that position there, it has this part here is being pulled a little bit further. So if I put the two drawings over top of each other, line up the bottom ball, you can see how that second ball is stretching out just a little bit further. Okay, so it creates a little bit more of a delay on it on the way down. So then when I proceed on to number 7, this is going to be our squish position. So once again, this part here is squishing, but I don't want this part here to be squished yet. What I want it to do is I want it to follow a path of action where it's coming down like this, and then I'm going to curl the path of action out here, because essentially I want to take this line and stretch it out forward here, like this. But I don't want to compress the character's neck. I want it to flow as though it's following an arc. So the natural arc would be in this direction here, which means that the head would now be basically in this position here. But I want it to drag. The drag here should be coming this direction like this, which means that the circle that I put on there that represents the tip of his head would now be pulled in this direction like this. Okay. So it goes forward like that. And I think, I'm just looking at that, I'm going to have to modify this drawing a little bit. If I was to modify it right now, I'd put it more like this. And the reason for that is because the path of action that I've created is an arc going this way. You can see the line right here, see the angle of it? Is not, the original one was going this way. I want to modify it so that it follows that path of action. Now see the difference there? when I stack flip these like this. See how it just flows a little bit better between those two? It's on the proper angle for the direction that it's moving in. So we have to understand what direction something is moving in order to create the proper pull for it. So if I had a ball that was here and I wanted to move the ball over into this position here, my halfway position would not stretch in this direction here. It'd stretch in this direction here, right? Because there's my path of action. So any stretching or squishing that you're going to do has to be in relationship to the direction that it's moving in. So because I'm pulling it in this direction here, it would stretch this way. If I pull it down in this direction down to here, the stretch would go this way, right? So my path of action on this is going like this, therefore I have to create the angle of the head on that drawing to match up to that angle. So now when we go to number 7, here's where this ball is going back up again. Now here's where I'm going to smack this head down. So it's a one drawing delay. So my surface here is out here. So following my natural path of action that I've created here, these lines that are coming through here like this, I'm going to swoop this and it's going to turn into an S curve down at the bottom here. Your path of action is always either an S curve, a C curve, or it's a straight line, but it's only a straight line if you're dealing with mechanical stuff. It's on a track. Okay? If it's more organic, then it's either an S curve or a C curve. So in this case here, it's reversing direction and coming down into this position here. And so this is where I'm going to now squish the head like that. And then from the center point here, this part here is going up, so the pull on the line is going to go in this direction, but this part here is going down, so the pull on the line is going to go in this direction here. So we get this feeling out of our line there. So then I proceed to number 8, which is my pull position. So now that the head has come down like this and smacked into this position here, it's probably going to pull back and up in this direction here, so that my neckline is going to go something like this. So once again, here's where we can decide what's the cause and effect here. You do a face plant on a character, he smacks his face on the ground, there might be a little bit of sticky grab and drag to it. So we might want to have his head stretch a little bit. So it's going to pull in this direction here. So I'm going to move it over here a little bit, but I'm going to keep it stuck on the ground and stretch it out just a little bit.
What if you don't have 7A?
If you don't have 7A, put it in.
Okay.
Because otherwise it's going to miss something. Okay. I think for this action here, it needs it. Okay, so you can see there how that pull is taking place. Now, because this is going to turn into a worm, I should explain to you that I am going to connect this all together. Okay, so I'm going to connect his head and body through like this, probably, like that. That'll be the full connection point there. And then I'll probably put antennas on him too. So we'll deal with that later on. Actually, we'll deal with that next week, because that's another secondary action thing. It's like hair. So we'll deal with that separately. So now number 9, here's where I'm pulling the character up. So my path of action is going to come up like this. So here's where I'm going to drag the head down, following that path of action. Basically going to go like that. So my head shape is right in here.
What if we feel like the neck's stretching too much?
Pardon me?
What if we feel like the neck is stretching too much?
Shorten it.
Okay.
Just shorten it up. Okay, so as it comes up now, I'm going to start to pull, let it recover. I'm going to pull it over like this. So my path of action is coming up like this. So you always have to know what your path of action is so that you can match up that part to that angle. If it doesn't match up to the path of action, then it's going to deviate and it's going to flutter. Okay, you'll get this type of an action on a movement where it'll flutter like that, and you don't want that. I'm coming up now, recovering a little bit more. Start to pull this out. Once again, there's my head shape. And I'm starting to recover it back to a circular shape there. It's also shortening up a little bit. Then we go to drawing number 1. So now here's where my ball has reached its high point. But I don't want the head here to reach its high point. It's going to slow up. But it's going to continue up. So here's where I have to do my flipping in this direction here to see whether or not that action is doing what I want it to do. I'm going to go to number 2. So my ball is starting to drop down now, but I want this ball to continue up. And I'm going to put a little bit of an S curve here, so this is very similar to what I did at the bottom, because it's reversing direction on the bottom part. I need to have a little bit of an S curve here, so that the pole here is coming down in this direction here, but this part here is still going up. So my curve at this point here has to go in this direction. So see how the pull on the way up is going like this, but the pull on the way down is curving down in this direction here. It's pulling down. So we have this curve and this curve, so it creates the S curve going between the two.
Quick question, do you want us to make sure that we have an anchor point where the neck is, so that it's not,
Yeah.
the neck isn't just
Well,
like
it's
flopping
basically
around
it's a
everywhere?
center point. Like pretend you've got a spine in the character. You can
Yeah.
either put it here at the back, or you can put it through the center.
Yeah,
It's up to you. It can move around if you want. Like this is the pull point here
Yeah.
on the lower part. So that's where you can put your line.
no, because what I'm saying is, will there be mark deduction if, say, the
No.
anchor point moves?
No, at this point, this is for fun.
Okay.
Okay, this third ball is not a graded part.
Okay.
Okay, the second ball that we did, this one here, this is what I'm grading.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, anything that you do beyond this ball is just to have a lot of fun. Okay, I don't care what you do with it. I don't care if it works or not. Okay, I just want you to try something different. Yep. Do I draw the line of action?
Yeah.
Well, in some cases you can pre-plan it. In other cases like this one here, I'm just going with the flow.
So this is like straight ahead.
This is evolution. It's just happening. It's happening right before your eyes. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure as to where it's going. So that's why, listen up, this is why, like if you start with drawing number 1, okay, if I had started with drawing number 1, I wouldn't necessarily have put the head there. I might have put it someplace else. Okay, you're just simply guessing. So you go with things that you know absolutely for sure as to where the head is going to be, and that's usually in the maximum acceleration point where it's going its fastest. You can pretty much guess correctly where something's going to be. But where it's more at a more static position, that's where you're overlapping. You don't necessarily know where it's going to be. Yeah.
Now I have more of a question in terms of, like, say we start doing the third ball.
Yep.
And that's complete and utter crap.
Yep.
Do you want us to
Leave it on.
just scrap it
Nope.
or leave it on?
Leave it on. I want to see it. I want to see your crap. No, I want to see that you're actually trying something. Okay. No, I find that students get scared because it's something that they've never tried before. It's out of the norm. So right at this point in time when I'm doing this, I'm scared. Okay, I'm scared like you would be scared, but I have the confidence of knowing the principles behind it. Okay, once you understand what those principles are, you can apply it to anything you want. Absolutely anything. There is no limit to what you can do. Okay, that's the really cool thing about animation, is that nothing is impossible for you. Okay, you are basically little mini gods creating a universe that other people can't necessarily do. And so you can go as far as you want. If you can imagine it and you can draw it, it can come alive. Right? So if you understand the principles behind the action and the movement, just go for it. And if it doesn't work, who cares? It's 11 drawings. Okay? So, you know, this part here, I mean, it's extending the lecture out a little bit longer, so that, you know, this overall lecture might be an hour and 15 minutes or whatever. So it's an hour and 15 minutes of my time gone. But at least I gave it a shot and saw, you know, whether or not it was going to work. By the way, it is going to work. Just so you know, it will look cool and it will work. Okay, so ignoring the grossness there, we're just going to pull this now and start to let it come down. But I'm still going to delay it just a little bit here. But then we've got to link it up. Okay, don't worry, I'm going to put a face on it. So, okay.
I don't know if that makes it better or worse.
Okay, so here's essentially what we're going to do.
Alright, there we go.
And he'll have little antennas on here that...
Okay, now it's
Better.
better.
Or why couldn't it be a snail then?
Yeah, it looks like
A snail would make
Yeah, with his
Like
shell.
shell?
Yeah.
But like a
There you
rubber.
go.
Your shell is doing that. Like you have.
And he's a happy...
Maybe it's a child snail, because you know the way snails, when they're young, their
Yeah.
shells are not like
That's
hard.
true, that's true. Yeah, so I could modify that shape
Yeah.
so it's not quite so small. But yeah, the idea of having that as a shell that comes down like this maybe.
What a butterfly. It could be the wing.
Most dogs what?
Okay, so the ladybug is dead.
Don't do that.
Ladybug is dead, now we're turning it into a shell. So we'll do something like this.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is adorable.
Okay.
I like that character.
Okay, so we'll go with that.
Right.
So it's not a you-know-what. It's a snail, okay?
Sure.
Okay, so we could even put a little bit of a, you know how they have those, they're flat on the bottom, they get the little, whatever, things there. Okay. All right, so now let's just double check to see if this is looping in. Yeah, I'm going to have to modify number 5 because again, it's the same issues we had before, that the number 5 position is not quite linking in to what I wanted it to link to. So see how it pops down there? So let's just pull those drawings off. So that number 4, 5, and 6 are the ones that we want to make sure are flowing. So we'll put down 4 and 6. There to there. Yeah, you can see that going from this one to this one to this one. See how it doesn't quite work? So what I want to do is I want to modify this one now, because I'm going from here to here. My head really should be right about there. Or I could stretch it a little bit further on this drawing here. We're doing more of that, and even this one here. So, you know, in this instance here, I mean, you can see I've got scribbly lines all over the place. I got structure and junk like that going everywhere. But it's what I want that's important, and if I understand what it is that I want in my mind as I'm doing the drawings, then I can be as scribbly and ugly as I want, because I'm just going to put another sheet of paper over top of it and turn it into my character. This is just the basic form of what I want. There, so that works better now. Okay, so that looks cool. So now the issue that I now have to deal with is what's going on with my other ball. I have to have his tail working properly. So let's start off
And
with,
his antennas.
it's got a lead actually, right? If I want it to do like this, it's got to be coming down first. So that means that if I go with my, let's take drawing number 1. We'll start here. And we'll put his tail down here. Actually, we'll give him a slightly shorter tail, just to make him look cuter. Go like that. Okay, so then we just proceed through our drawings once again. So I want this one to drop faster. But what I can also do here is I can actually overlap this a little bit. So I can put this, get a drag on the tail coming down. I'm getting a pull by his lower butt there on the tail. And I gotta find my number 7 drawing here actually, so I can get my contact point so I know where, because I want to start to have his bottom, the back of his tail actually touch at this point here. Maybe, maybe not. Might be a little bit too low there. There's my surface there that I have to get to. So I can't have it hit yet. So it's going to be on number 6 that it's going to. Alright, so number 6 is going to be my touching point here. And that hits. See, my tail's coming down in this direction here, but then I want it to flip in this direction here to follow that path of action. Like that. Just draw this through here. And then I'm going to take the tail and get it to start to straighten out here, because I want the tip to flip down. So see how it flips over in this direction now? So when I go to 7A, that face plant is going to hurt. Where his antenna would go there. So right, so what I need to do is this. Get his tail to then smack down there. And then pull And then what I want to do here is I want to make sure that this tail recovers first. So I'm going to loop it out like this. So it's going to recover faster than the head is. Here's where it comes up higher. And then I gotta get it to loop in, so I might have to modify my number 1 drawing. Yeah, see my number 1 is in the wrong position on that one there. It's dropping too fast. So let me just pull 1, 2, and 3. So I might have to modify them as well. But once again, you know, having guessed on number 1, I guessed wrong. So it's going in the reverse direction there. So following this part here, it's got to continue up. It'll be in that position there. And then I can start to drop it down. So I'm going to keep, I'll modify number 3 a little bit, but what I want to do now is get my tail to reverse and come down in this direction here. There's where I want the tail to be there. And then not quite so far down on number 3. Of course, I'll have to change the position of that shell there. Okay, so now let's see how that looks. Yeah, so that's going to look kind of cool. Okay, so what I'll do is, over the weekend, or probably I'll do it tonight, because I'll have the video up by Friday. Well, wait, tomorrow's Friday. I'll have it up by Saturday. So what I'll do is I'll clean this all up and put it on model and make sure that he looks like he should. Like this. So with a slightly larger shell. I think his shell's a little bit too small there. But I'll modify that and get it all cleaned up so that it looks nice and on model. And then put it together with the video. All right?